just going to start with an opening statement. Probably any questions?
Well, yesterday I had an opportunity to go to the gymnastics meet. I'm not sure who all was there, but it was outstanding atmosphere. Just realizing how, not only how good our gymnastics program is to be able to defeat a top 5 program and being ranked themselves, but to see how electric the Hearns Center is. That was my first time in Hearns, to be able to see that excitement, and it was unbelievable, and they did a great job. Thoroughly enjoyed myself. As it relates to this upcoming game, it's going to be, again, one of the best defensive teams in our conference. Chris Jans has done a great job. He returned a core group of guys that are the catalyst behind their success, but also their style of play. I think they do a great job defensively, forcing programs into tough shots, holding the score down, being able to post feed at a high level. One of the toughest post players in the country, not just in our conference, but in the country, will pose a threat, and we got to do a great job, no different than any team has tried to. Now, ultimately, he's been averaging several points, several rebounds, so it'll be a tall task.
Questions?
Yes, the second time around against a guy like that, do you just go in feeling a little bit not necessarily prepared, but more equipped because you've got different guys that you can play out there against a big like that?
Yeah, what's unique is his time of possession is very low, but his effectiveness is very high. He doesn't take much. He does a great job of timing, getting to the basket, creating whatever advantage he can, but also his teammates do a great job of delivering that ball in spaces where only he could catch it. So we have to do a tremendous job, but also he's a great guy when it comes down to just quick left shoulder or right shoulder. Very wide stance, very balanced. So we got to do our job, and he's a seasoned veteran, someone who I believe they're outing against Kentucky. He was probably 20 plus points, but a high shot 80 plus % from the field. That's against some big time defenders in Oscar Tshiebwe, but also the length that Kentucky has, and ultimately even last game against Ole Miss, they ended up winning an overtime game, and I thought he was able to do a lot of good things. They have great guard play as well, great defenders on the perimeter, and obviously their athleticism is one of the tops in our conference.
Coach, looking back at that game, what do you feel like are some of the things that y'all can do a better job of this time around?
Well, last game, and it was the weirdest game. I'll say that again because we did what we needed to do defensively. We did not convert in those points in transition, but also after forced turnovers. There is no way we should not have been up double-digit points in that game. And, it's just one of those outlying games that we wasn't able to convert, and we usually have. I love the energy that our team played with. I love the results as it relates to forcing a team into turnovers who knew because of the second half that we played in Texas to cut the deficit to 4. We forced them into turnovers, and that was going to be at the top of their game plan to try not – but we were still able to do that. I thought there was some possessions that we ended up not closing. When I say close, whether it was a turnover afterwards or it goes out of bounds, we didn't do a good job of closing those possessions, but ultimately converting those situations as well. We got to get to the foul line, and it's going to be one of those games where, depending on how the whistle goes, it'll dictate the physicality, it'll dictate also points in the paint, it'll dictate a whole lot.
Dennis, after the game Saturday, Buzz Williams kind of said that he viewed that game as a statistical anomaly just because of how 15 points and just 21 turnovers doesn't happen very often. I mean, do you view it the same way?
That it's the weirdest thing, and it's one of those things. You might as well go outside and try to figure out if an eclipse is about to happen, right? Because that does not happen. It's not normal. When you can look at a lot of first half stat sheets. A lot of first half stat sheets throughout the country. I will be shocked if another looks the way that ours looked when we look at how we were able to force them in turnovers, how we were able to do certain things and defend, and then it being the score that it was. It was the weirdest thing. But, we still got to play the game. We didn't do enough to win, and we have to obviously come away a little bit better. What was great is we were able to get it to a single-digit deficit, but we wasn't able to get it to 2 possessions or 3 possessions and it felt from that game, it felt like you were down 30 instead of 9. It just felt that way, and it had that feel.
Dennis, are you guys motivated at all by SEC tournament seeding at this point, or is that not something you think about till it kind of rolls around?
Well, I try not to think about that at the moment because you cannot play because a lot of things. If you look at the last 3 years in this conference, I believe 6 teams were 8 and 8, 9 and 9 at the end. So the seeding, you might as well try to go get a Rubik's Cube or play a game of Sudoku or whatever else it is before you try to figure that out with the way the standings is. We know that 2 teams are playing for a championship, meaning a regular season championship. We know that at this point, a lot will have to happen for them not to, right? We know that. We know Texas A&M and Alabama, and I believe they play each other the last game of the season. That game will have ramifications, without a doubt, in the overall bracket. That is the most important thing. Who's number 1, who's number 2 seed. Outside of that, anything can happen. Anything can happen, no matter if you're playing the first round or you're playing 5 straight days. Anything can happen in conference tournament because it's postseason play.
In that same vein, is there that value of getting that bye, kind of getting the rest the first couple weeks or first couple days of the tournament like that?
Y'all know me by now. I don't look at those things. I really don't. I really don't.
Since you got Trey back for a little bit in Saturday's game, just you've known him probably as long as any player on this team. What value does he bring on and off the court to a program?
I'll say this. Whenever you have a guy with his experience returning, it elevates your play from a connectivity standpoint, but also a guy who may have fresher legs and a fresher mind and a fresher spirit than others. You never know when guys come back and they can help. As you know, the season is a long season. You just want them back at the right time so you can be able to practice, but also insert himself into the lineup and different things like that. Traditionally, what you have to understand is he's a guy with postseason experience. He's a guy with down the stretch, right? Last 4 games, he has that experience. He knows, and that's the experience that you want on the floor. That's the experience you want in the locker room. But also, he helps our team in different ways. And sometimes what he does doesn't show up in the stat sheet.
Could you see him getting into coaching once he's done playing?
I think we got about 4 coaches on our team right now. About 4. I would be shocked if we had less than that. I played on a team at Cal, and it was a player-led team. It was a team with experience. It was a team that really, really communicated with the head coach, et cetera. And over four coaches. 2 was in the NBA, 3 in high school, and 2 are college head coaches, myself and Shantae Leggins over at Portland. So.
Time for one last question.
Dennis, I'm just kind of curious. I know there's this photo that surfaced on social media of you back in the day with Michael Jordan. You got dinner with him a while back. I'm just kind of curious. What did meeting him? You talk so much about like making connections in this game. I'm curious if that meeting had any impact on that, and you kind of making connections more in this game back.
Yeah. So growing up in Chicago, you have to understand the influence of Michael Jordan, right? My high school, Whitney Young High School, was literally a couple blocks away from the United Center. And you were able to see the championships. You were able to see the progress of the program, the progress of the organization, the ups and downs, but also the perseverance that they showed. In that, you had great coaches, whether it was assistants or even the head coach, Doug Collins, Phil Jackson. I was influenced by that, but also being able to draw. I would sit at the table with a notepad and just literally, this was before DVR or you can record anything and rewind. I would try to just draw the triangle offense. I think that had an influence on me because I was interested in X's and O's. It helped my short-term memory, long-term memory to be able to draw plays on the napkin or even on a sheet of paper, which to this day helps that. As it relates to work in Jordan camp, I was fortunate enough to, whether it was work out in the summers while I was in college, where Michael Jordan would open up Attack Athletics with the famous trainer, Tim Grover, relationship that I still have. And I still thank them to this day because ultimately Tim Grover was a guy that influenced me from a standpoint. He either let me rebound, let me work out guys with him, and I would do that. But ultimately, he taught me how to get out of my comfort zone. Hey, we have an NBA workout. I know you want to get into coaching. You may want to just walk around and introduce yourself. Those things carry weight. So it's not just Michael Jordan. It's the entire camp that I was able to be introduced through and influence me from the standpoint of coaching. Most memorable moment, yeah, sitting down having dinner with Michael Jordan, George Raveling, and Quentin Richardson, my high school teammate, and that was awesome. So definitely influenced. I have sent message to him to thank him. I know his sons, his cousins, and different nephews that live in Chicago. So he's definitely the GOAT of my life, right? Everybody would say something different. I won't change that. We have a Kobe era and a LeBron era, but it wouldn't change that for me.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Thanks.
MIZ.